Hi, I'm Joe Paskov, and I'm going to explain the music theory behind my remix to Levitating by Dua Lipa. So the original song by Dua, which was produced by Kaz and Stuart Price, is in the key of B minor. And the first chord that they play in the song is a B minor 7 add 9 chord. The second chord they play is a G flat minor 7 chord. Third chord that they play is an E minor 7 add 9 chord. And the fourth chord is our resolution back to our tonic, which is a B minor 7 add 9. One important thing that they did in the progression is between the G flat minor 7 and the E minor 7 add 9 chord, they add a passing chord by way of an F minor 7 chord. And it's important to note that F is not within our key center of B minor. F is in fact the tritone of B, which means it's 6 semitones away, 6 half steps away, and on opposite ends of the circle of fifths. So those two notes are more in conflict with one another than any other notes in the 12-tone scale. So put it together, the progression sounds like this. So it's catchy, it's simple, it's digestible. All of the notes within that progression or within the chords within that progression all maintain within the key center of B minor or its relative major D major, with the exception of that F minor 7 chord, which adds a little bit of jazziness, a little bit of chromaticism as you walk down from the G flat to the F to the E, and ventures a little bit outside of our key center. So for the most part, it's safe, it's catchy, it's repetitive, and so I think it does a good job of looping in the listener, like I said, being easily digestible, and within, considering Dua's melody, her lyrics, the production on the song, it makes for a really catchy and just an awesome track. So when I'm thinking about a remix, I want to do my best to kind of maintain the soul and initial intent and integrity of the original song, with adding my own kind of creative decisions and accentuations and flair and so on to the song. So the way I thought about this was, number one, I wanted to keep the key center the same. So I kept the song in the key of B minor, so I didn't have to pitch up or down Dua's vocals. And I started the song with the same chord that Dua started with, which is a B minor 7 add 9 chord. I knew that from there I wanted to eventually get to a G major 7 chord, which in the key of B minor is the flat 6th, or in the key of its relative major, D major, is the fourth note or the fourth mode of that key. So in relationship to D major, which has the same notes of B minor, which in the case of D major would be D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, and D. When you play those notes starting on a G, you get what's called a Lydian scale or a Lydian feel. And the difference between a Lydian scale and a natural major scale or an Ionian scale is that the fourth note of that key center, in this case G, is just raised up a half step. So really the only differences between the key of G and the key of D, which is the same as the key of B minor, is that the C in G, or the fourth note in that scale, is raised up a half step. So if I'm playing a D major scale, it sounds like this. If I play those notes over B, that's your B minor scale. So same notes, different feel, more of a minor feel. And I play those notes over a G, it sounds like this. So really the only difference between a G major scale, which is this, and a G Lydian scale, which is this, is the difference between a C and a C sharp. So the Lydian scale has a more kind of uplifting, kind of a brighter sound to it than the natural Ionian scale. So I know I wanted to resolve at a G major, and I wanted to get there in a way that kind of ventures outside of the key center, but in a way that kind of sounds familiar. So I did that by using a secondary dominant by way of a D7 chord. And the only difference between a D7 chord and a D major 7 chord is the C sharp, which is the major 7 of D, I'm playing as a flat, which is a flat 7. So that's C sharp, same note. I'm playing as a C. which kind of signals to the listener that we are potentially venturing outside of our key center of B minor, which has, like I mentioned before, has the same notes as D major. So I play a D dominant 7 chord, which sounds familiar, but has one note in it that is not within our key center, which is that natural C. Then I resolve to the G major, which is the resolutory key that really I'm aiming to arrive at, and kind of signals a full modulation outside of the key of B minor, really to the key of G. And again, the only differences between those two key centers is one note, playing a C major instead of a C sharp. So together, it sounds like this. That's the C. Then resolving at our G. So it sounds good, it sounds congruent. We've kind of established a new key center that's slightly different to B minor or D major. They're one step away in the circle of fifths, but it is still new. So from there, I wanted to get back to our B minor, to kind of come full circle with our modulation. So we're kind of back in the original key of the song. So the way I did that is by way of a 2-5-1 in the key of B minor. So I played a D flat, a G flat, and then back to a B. And the way I voiced that was by a D flat half diminished chord, which is a D flat, E, G, and B. Then I played a G flat 7 flat 9 chord, and then resolved back to our B minor 7 at 9. I think it's important to note the way I voiced the upper structure in my left hand of that progression. Like I mentioned, I started with a D flat half diminished chord, which is D flat, E, G, and B. Then for the G flat 7 flat 9 chord, the way I voiced it in my left hand was originally, playing the tonic in the bottom half of my left hand, then kind of jumping in a stride way to play the upper structure by playing a D flat, which is the 5, an E, which is the flat 7, a G, which is the flat 9, and then the B flat, which is the natural third. And that chord, that upper structure chord in and of itself is just a D flat diminished chord. And the only difference between the D flat half diminished chord, which I started with, and a D flat diminished chord, which I'm ending with, is I'm dropping the B to a B flat. So it's really one note away between the two chords. So I think when you voice it that way, it sounds chromatic, it kind of sounds congruent and consistent. You're not jumping all around the piano to have two chords that are preceding, or one's preceding the other, which is preceding the tonic, which is what a 2-5-1 is. And it kind of sounds consistent and smooth and fluid all throughout. So together it sounds like this. So all together, the first progression sounds like this. So as far as the melody is concerned and the rhythm is concerned, to start the song, I wanted to maintain kind of a simpler, easily digestible rhythm and melody that more or less supported Dua's vocals, supported her rhythm and melodic choices in a way that didn't really take away from the song, kind of made it easy to transition into whatever I was playing. Wasn't anything too overwhelming. But still had some of those harmonic decisions and choices that ventured outside of the key center that kept it interesting enough for the listener to not be too overwhelmed, but kind of be intrigued as to what was going on. So the second cadence, or the second stanza of the first verse, has the same chord progressions. And again, I think the intention is to get a little bit more melodically involved, but still kind of play notes that support Dua's melody and Dua's kind of rhythmic choices that she makes as she kind of moves throughout the lyrics of the song. So the first two parts of the progression go like this. So a little bit more notes, a little bit more intricacies, I would say, but still kind of generally following the melody line that Dua is providing, venturing outside a little bit, but still, I think, strongly supporting her vocals and her lyrics and melody. So the next piece of the song, kind of the second component, is, I would say, kind of the pre-chorus, or a part of the song where the percussion drops out. You kind of want to have a feeling that it's calmer, slower, have the feeling that you're kind of building towards a moment in the song where the energy kind of comes in, and is that kind of energetic drop part of the song. So in so doing, I wanted to keep the same progression, kind of keep an airier, lighter feel to it. And I did that by playing kind of runs in the left hand, up to the right, nothing too melodically involved, kind of stayed within the key center, and tried to maintain kind of a lighter, less heavy feel to really juxtapose when the drop comes in and the energy kind of really hits at its fullest extent. So that piece goes like this. So you can see that I kind of start softer, runs in the left hand, I kind of build up in energy, I'm kind of following the melody line, and that leads us to the G minor 7 flat 9 chord that precedes our tonic, which is really kind of the culmination of the energy kind of coming to. And within that chord, which is, I think, my second favorite chord in the song, I added one element to it from the original G flat minor 7 chord, which is I added a D, which is a sharp 5 in the key of G flat. And I think I did that just to add a little bit more jazziness, a little bit more tension, have some accent notes that are outside of the key center of our original tonic, B flat minor, and just kind of have more of an element of really chromaticism and jazziness to the mix. So the way that I voiced it was G flat in the left, upper structure G flat 7 chord was the E, which is the minor 7, B flat, which is the natural third, and then the right hand I played the E, which is the dominant 7, G, which is the flat 9, B flat, which is the natural third, and D, which is our sharp 5. So when you play them together, it sounds like this. Which, when you proceed resolving at the 1 of the 5 being the G flat and 1 being the B, it has a nice kind of resolutory feeling to it. I think a reason for that is if you look at the upper triad or the upper structure of my right hand, when I'm playing the G flat 7 flat 9 sharp 5 chord, the top 3 notes I'm playing are a G, B flat, and D, which is really a minor triad in the key of G minor. And then the upper structure in the key of B minor, that the way I'm voicing the right hand, is a G flat, A, and D flat. And so those, which is effectively a G minor 7 triad, a G minor triad. So I'm really going from G flat minor triad. So I'm really going from a G minor triad to a G flat minor triad. All 3 of those notes in relation to the other 3 notes are just 1/2 step away, 1/2 step down. So that transition, to go back to our tonic or our key center, sounds like this. So I think the way that I'm voicing the right hand and the upper structures and the voice leading, kind of, again, it falls in line with the consistency, congruency of using chromaticism between some of these chord progressions and modulations in a way that kind of is easy on the ear and kind of sounds consistent as those progressions carry on throughout the mix. So again, that progression goes, or I guess that small progression goes like this. So when I play the B minor 7 add 9 chord there, that's really when the percussion comes in, the bass comes in, the hi-hats, the snare, everything comes in, and the energy is at its fullest. So in that piece, there's a lot going on. Dua's screaming, the piano is going, everything's happening. So in kind of arranging that piece, I wanted it to be clear that the energy was there. I wanted to support her melody. I wanted provide kind of substance to the mix, but not do anything overly intricate, and stay within the progression that I kind of laid out prior to. So that part of the mix goes like this. So again, you can see my right hand, I'm following the melody, I'm supporting Dua's melody, rhythm, and lyrics. I'm providing the structure by way of the chord progression that I set out before, and not doing anything overly accentuating or adding too much real flair or technicalities to the right hand. So when we get to the G flat minor 7 flat 9 chord, which we've now played I think 3 times in different variations within the song, the listener is expecting us to resolve back to our tonic, which is the B minor 7 add 9, or just a B minor chord, in the same way that we just did in the stanza prior. And one of the things that I did, which is one of my favorite things that I do in music, at least right now, or one of my favorite sounds at the moment, is when you've kind of established a key center, you've established a minor or a major key center, really, and the listener is expecting for you to arrive back at that minor key center, you play the major key of whatever that key is. So not the relative major, which in this case would be D major, you just play the major of whatever key that you're in. So instead of resolving to a B minor chord, I'm resolving to a B major chord. And the only differences between a B minor and a major is a B minor chord has a flattened 3rd, 6th, and 7th notes, and then relative to a B minor chord, a B major chord has the 3rd, 6th, and 7th notes raised up a half step. So by definition, those notes are brighter, they're higher. So when you resolve to a major instead of a minor, it kind of sounds brighter, lighter, kind of like the sun is rising, kind of uplifting, I suppose, feeling to it, which I really like, and it kind of has like a refreshing, association, I suppose. So that progression, I'll just play that entire progression leading up to the resolution to our B major instead of the B minor. So we resolve there. It kind of sounds refreshing, new, almost relaxing a little bit. So now I'm in the second half of the chorus. I've kind of established our key center. I've ventured outside in ways that I think are tasteful, but still adventurous a little bit, and new and jazzy and chromatic and all of those things. I've supported Dua's lyrics. I've supported the rhythmic decisions, the melodic decisions that she's made, maintained the chord progressions, and I think the listener is familiar enough with the song now and its fundamentals, where I can kind of add in more technical piano, more soloing really on my part, where it doesn't sound forced and it kind of feels like the song is ready for that. So I'm keeping the same progression, but adding a little bit more really soloing to the right hand. So we resolve to a B major chord. So now we're in B major, and the run I do in the right hand is this. So really what I'm doing is I'm borrowing from the B minor, really a B minor pentatonic scale, and a little bit more accurately a B minor blues scale, which uses these notes. And that's B, D, E, F, which is the tritone, and between our natural third and our natural 5. A, which is our flat 7, and B. So those notes, with the exception of F, are the notes within the B minor pentatonic scale and the D major pentatonic scale, which really pentatonic. Those notes are, if you condensed our septatonic or diatonic D major or B minor scales down to 5 notes, it would be those notes. So those notes are closest to one another in the circle of fifths. They're the most harmonically consistent and congruent, and a lot of music, especially Western music and pop music, really leans heavily on the pentatonic scales. So I kind of borrowed from those scales and used a little bit of chromaticism, which is similar to the progression that Dua did in her original mix, and going from the G flat minor 7 to an F minor 7 and resolving to the E minor 7 at 9, just by using that F as kind of a passing jazzy tension note that kind of signals that we're venturing outside of the key a little bit, but it still sounds jazzy and cool and at least consistent with the other notes that we're choosing to play. So again, that run is this. So that leads us to the top of that run. To get down to, so I've played the G major 7, our D dominant 7, sorry, a B major 7, D dominant 7, and resolving to the G major 7. In the notes going down to the G major 7 chord, I'm really just borrowing from, the D major scale, or really the G major scale as well. And I guess you could make the parallel between D pentatonic as well. So just really staying within the key center. I'm not playing any notes outside of it. I'm foregoing playing that F note. Just played it before. Don't really want to overuse it. I think it's a powerful note to play. And so really just running down the D pentatonic or B minor pentatonic scale down to a D, which is the 5th note in the key of G, and the most, I guess, harmonic note within the diatonic scale of G major of any other notes. So we resolve really down to our G major scale with effectively what amounts to just kind of a D or a G major triad. So now in our G major, we're kind of approaching the end of this clip at least, and where to resolve back to our B minor, which is where we want to ultimately arrive at, which is our key center. We're going to use the same 2-5-1 progression that we used before, which is our D half diminished, D flat half diminished, G flat minor 7, flat 9 chord as the 5 preceding our tonic, which is our B minor. So I'm in G major now, the new kind of temporary key center. And going back up to the final run of the song, I'm just choosing notes from the key of G major, and just running back up to what will be the ultimately final run of the clip. So the notes I'm choosing are within the key of G major, which is our temporary key center, but also within the key of B minor, original key center. So I'm choosing, basically the difference between those two keys is, remember, the C sharp to the C, and I'm just electing not to play either of those notes. So that run kind of sounds consistent from where we were, where we are, and then where we're going. So now it's our final 2-5-1 before we're arriving at our B minor. And to revisit what I mentioned before, in the left hand we're really playing a D flat half diminished, then a D flat diminished over a G flat, which is really a G flat minor 7, flat 9, and then resolving to the B minor. So those two, the 2 and the 5 of the 2-5-1, both have diminished feels of them. One's a half diminished chord, one's a diminished chord, and resolving to a minor chord. So all of those chords are darker, more minor, have a more somber feel to them, and the first two have diminished elements throughout them. So what I wanted to do was borrow from a scale that was kind of had diminished undertones, and the scale I chose to borrow from for that last scale was a D harmonic minor scale. A B harmonic minor scale. The only difference between a B harmonic minor scale and just a B minor scale is that in a B harmonic minor, we are playing a major 7th note instead of a flat 7th note. So in a B minor scale, you're flatting the 3rd, 6th, and 7th notes. In a B harmonic minor, you're just flatting the 3rd and the 6th notes. So a B minor scale sounds like this. A B harmonic minor scale sounds like this. So the feeling and sentiment or whatever that I associate with a harmonic minor scale is it kind of sounds oriental, a little bit Arabian Nighty, I guess, and I think that comes from the when we're playing the minor 6 to the major 7th, the gap or the increment between those two notes are 3 half steps or 3 semitones. Whereas in most other or all other major and minor diatonic scales, the increments between any two notes is either 1 half step or 2. So in this case, you're really jumping from our G, which is our flat 6, to our B flat, which is a major 7. And that increment of a minor third just has a certain sound to it. So I'm borrowed from that scale. That scale has diminished kind of undertones and components to it. Diminished scale by definition is a scale that has, it's defined by having increments of a half step, whole step, half step, whole step. And that is prevalent throughout that scale. So I'm starting with a run that borrows from that B harmonic minor scale. All those notes are within the B harmonic minor scale. So that's the D half diminished component of that run. Then when we get to the 5, which is the G flat minor 7, or G flat 7 flat 9 chord, G flat 7 flat 9, yeah. I wanted to add notes that are kind of similar to that scale, but not, I didn't want to just repeat the scale running down, and so I wanted to add notes that added some element of spiciness, I guess accent, jazziness, whatever, to that scale for no other reason than just to make it sound interesting and add a little bit of variety. So the two notes that I added were an E flat, which is the natural third of the key of B, so not in the key of B minor, and then a C, which is a flat 9 in the key of B and not in the key of B minor or B major. And so that was just a way of kind of, again, venturing outside of the key, but then, so providing some tension, but then ultimately resolving to our home, which is the key center of B minor, which we've kind of established throughout the song. So the run together sounds like this. And in the left hand, I'm doing the same structure that I did before, just again, a B, or a D flat half diminished, D flat diminished over a G flat, and then resolving to our B minor, which should sound familiar, but also a little bit different because in the preceding stanza, we resolved to a B major. So I think that's it. I hope that's helpful. Let me know if anyone has any questions or comments or whatever. I'm happy to talk through any of this further, but I guess it probably makes sense for me to just play it once through altogether.